Other than SpongeBob, and I guess maybe the Loud House, that's pretty debatable, I will fight you in a cage match, the most recognizable series to ever come out of Nickelodeon has to be The Fairly OddParents. Nowadays, people, including myself, are more likely to talk about the series' creator for various reasons unrelated to the show, but for a long time, which included the earliest portions of my childhood, it was a staple of the network and still holds a lot of relevance amongst nostalgic Zoomers, which is a much larger market than you'd assume. Notable for being created as a concept in 15 minutes, this kid, Timmy Turner, is just like any other 10-year-old that no one understands. He gets bad grades in school, his parents aren't around often, and most of the time he's left to deal with an evil babysitter named Vicky. What makes him special is that he's not alone to deal with all this, having his two fairy godparents, Cosmo and Wanda, to grant any wish he desires, with a few caveats of course. From release it was a massive hit, and for a time in 2003 it actually dethroned SpongeBob as a #1 show on Nick, something I don't think happened again until The Loud House in 2016. And though it stayed strong for several years, eventually ratings declined, and the crew did what every other dying show does when it wants a ratings boost: add a new character. First, in season 6 we got Poof, the baby of Cosmo and Wanda, who was used to reinvigorate the show after being cancelled for a short period. Then there was Sparky in season 9, the radical fairy dog who quickly stopped being used after his introduction, and finally after him was Chloe in season 10, the kid Timmy would have to share his fairies with, and I don't think I need to tell you that in the end none of these were able to stop the show from fading into irrelevance. Poof did give a temporary spike, but by the final season almost all of the most memorable aspects of FOP had pretty much vanished. Then halfway through the series transitioned to Flash, and once your series has gone from traditional animation to done in Flash, you know it's on the chopping block. As a final death nail, the series got moved to Nicktoons Network, the sister channel to Nick that most people don't have, so it's an unspoken rule of sorts that any show moved there is just meant to run out the clock before they cancel it, and FOP was no different. You'd think maybe the series would go out with a bang after being on the air for 16 years, at one point rivaling SpongeBob in popularity, but no, there was no such fanfare. FOP slowly burned out on Nicktoons Network, where it was barely advertised and got about a sixth of the viewer base, the last episode to air being a random one-off with a regular 11-minute time span. The crew probably didn't even know it was going to be the last episode. Just like that, FOP was gone, and with how long it had been burning out, I don't think many people even noticed. That's not the ending of Fairly OddParents to me, though. No, all the way back in 2004, we got something perfect to end the franchise on a high note, and I still consider it to be the definitive conclusion. Though they became less frequent as the series progressed, earlier on, FOP had several TV specials, including Schools Out the Musical, the Jimmy Timmy Power Hours, Abracatastrophe, and the subject of this video, Channel Chasers. Basically, it was a full-on TV movie, and not like that 45-minute shit they'll say is a movie when it barely qualifies, an actual movie-length film about Timmy getting fed up with his parents and deciding he wants to live in his TV instead, only to find Vicky going in after him, as well as a masked figure from the future. It was also created in a 4:3 aspect ratio and never updated, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to spend the whole video cropping out those stupid black bars. From the first time that I got to see it, I loved Channel Chasers and placed it at the top of my list of Nick specials, always tuning in whenever it was on. Even as a child with terrible taste who liked Alvin and the Chipmunks, I knew how great this special was, since it really does encapsulate all that was great about Fairly OddParents while giving a continuation of its past themes that feels fitting and relevant for a final storyline. Really, all you need to look at is the basic premise to understand how well it fits with the rest of the series. A major component of FOP as a whole is its ability to recreate childlike innocence and imagination. So many episodes of the show have to do with things every kid would wish for if they could. Christmas every day, having your imaginary friend be real, bringing your pet back to life, and through those episodes there's usually a message about how terrible that would be and why it's not a good idea. Channel Chasers takes that kind of concept to the next level, however, by acting more as a cacophony of wishes and ideas all rolled into one, since there are near infinite options for different TV shows to land in, and the addition of other people only makes it more exciting. The special really takes advantage of the fact that it has a higher budget than a regular episode of the show, doing what I love when characters go into different universes by switching up the art style, or in some cases using a completely separate form of animation entirely. You really feel like the characters actually go into another show when they do it, which is exactly what a kid would expect when hopping from channel to channel. And there's a shit ton of effort that goes in when doing that, so I really gotta applaud the animators and staff. Personally, the puppet section has to be my favorite for how short but hilarious it is. Going into different shows all the time also means different abilities, settings, and feels for the characters, which in some cases could be a problem, but with the FOP cast, they all fit right in and make for an entertaining experience. I can't really say that the show is funny all the time, but there's a lot of charm. You want to watch these characters and see them interact because they're fun and imaginative, and you can see yourself in Timmy if you've ever been someone his age. Having a remote to not only enter but change aspects of TV Vicky is also an awesome idea, and you can see how the options that come with it are utilized creatively, not only through the lens of Timmy, but also his evil babysitter Vicky, who uses it for personal gain and achievement, mirroring the viewpoint of a cynical teenager that wants everything for themselves. Her outright evil nature is also just plain fun to watch. She makes the movie with her interactions between Timmy and the fairies, wanting to become an evil dictator and take over the world because, well, she can. And it pretty much goes without saying, but bringing time travel in to get Timmy's future self involved only adds to that entertainment, as well as contributing a lot to the overarching themes. FOP has always very much been a series about creativity and childlike wonder, but there's also a sad truth involved when it comes to the eventual departure of fairies. The showrunners make it blatantly apparent in the show that fairies represent imagination and innocence, being there for kids with shitty lives to cheer them up and make the most of their situations before going into adulthood. There's a sort of escapist quality involved, and a kid losing their fairies after getting older is meant to show that kid going into the real world and forgetting their innocence over time, representing growing up to stop caring about that kind of thing and losing the perspective of a kid. It isn't bad that people have to grow up, everyone does, but characters like Mr. Crocker, Timmy's teacher, show what can happen when you chase your childhood endlessly to the point of it becoming an obsession, his constant search for fairies being a sort of representation for his never-ending quest to look for an innocence he can't get back. Growing up is an integral theme to Fairly Odd Parents, and something that was heavily forgotten in latter seasons, including a special about Timmy becoming a child predator, becoming an adult and hanging on to his fairies, a special about Timmy hanging on to Cosmo and Wanda for 50 years, etc. What I'm saying is that later down the line, FOP lost one of its core ideas, that being that growing up can't be stopped, and you should embrace it while still enjoying the time you have left as a kid, since it won't go on forever. They also forgot about continuity with the rules, parents not being allowed to see fairies, most of the supporting cast. But back to what I was saying about accepting growing up, that's the main idea of Channel Chasers when the plot is stripped away. Timmy doesn't want to grow up. He dislikes his parents, who don't and have never believed him about Vicky being a horrible babysitter. He thinks they're moronic and cruel for acting the way they do to him, and upon hearing he might lose Cosmo and Wanda at some point, the anxiety really takes over his rational thoughts. That's why he ultimately tries to stay in TV land. People never age on TV, so why should he? Timmy should be able to just kick up a seat and enjoy himself in a place where the grown-ups can't boss him around or maybe don't even exist. It sounds like a kid's paradise. But in the end, through going across so many channels and meeting his future self, Timmy understands that's not only unrealistic, but unfair. His parents might be idiots who are so gullible they can't see Vicky as a literal hellspawn, but they do care for him unlike anyone else. Other than Vicky's antics, the main reason they were mad at Timmy in the first place was because he disobeyed them and ruined their days, something he doesn't even take into account when wondering how they could act so badly to him. And yet, when he does decide to leave with nothing but a note to say he's run away, his parents' immediate reaction is to go out looking for him and trying to discover if what he said about Vicky was true. They might be kind of slow-witted at times, but there's no malice behind it. When you're a kid, all grown-ups kind of seem like they're unfair and don't care about you, but it's actually the opposite. Parents, way more often than not, want what's best for you as their kid, and while they might mess up, when they realize that's the case, their base instinct is to try and correct it. Timmy learns about how important his parents are to him by going around and finding shows where they either aren't prominent or are completely unhelpful, coming to understand just how much they shaped him to be the person he is now. Timmy's future self also shows him all that he'll be able to become by growing up, something that'll never be staying a kid forever, which culminates in Timmy intentionally aging himself up to try stopping Vicky, knowing he'll lose Cosmo and Wanda. And when it doesn't pan out that way, he gets a whole new appreciation for not only his parents, but his fairies while he still has them. Channel Chasers teaches kids that it's alright to move on, and though you can't hold on to what made your childhood so special for your entire life, that limited nature of it only makes the time you do have left all the more important. Seeing a grown-up version of Timmy at the end of the whole thing really solidifies this as the definitive ending of the series for me. It's just so perfect. Timmy chose to agree with growing up, and while now, to his kids, he might seem like the same gullible adult Timmy's parents were to him, we, as the audience, know he's grown as a person with this kind of conclusion, and that could really be no better a fate for him. That's also why I disregard all the other specials where he refuses to grow up and makes Channel Chasers feel like it's almost non-canon. Fuck them. Like, really, with how Fairly Odd Parents continue to go on, it felt like we went into the worst version of Channel Chasers where Timmy decided to stay a kid forever and never left the TV, just continually becoming more jaded to the fact that he stayed a kid so long and no longer likes being it. Then it all just fizzles out and he never gets to feel true happiness as a grown-up because he didn't grow up at all or change. Like, I'm serious. Fuck the other seasons. I don't care about them and I don't consider them canon. This was a really short video, probably shorter than I've made in a long time, but there's a big project coming up and I wanted to give you guys a little something while waiting, so I hope you enjoyed it. I've been Just Stop, and I'll see you all in the next one.